the high seats and everything. Loving that. How are we feeling about OpenSauce so far, y'all? Let's give it a round of applause for Will and the whole team making this happen. Yeah. I do have to make one quick announcement before we get started. For those who don't know, it's actually Thor's birthday today. Just want to give a quick applause. Happy birthday, Thor!
No, it ain't. That's next month.
Congratulations.
Not yeah, oh
Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday
Who made you this way?
Pirate Software Thor guy. Happy birthday to you. Woo! You look amazing for 23.
You could be any other way. You know that, right?
Prime said he would stop reacting to my videos if I didn't do that, so I had to. Anyways, let's quickly go through intros. I want everybody to say who they are, what they do, and who their favorite YouTube channel is.
All right, hey, my name's The Primogen. I do coding on the internet. I didn't grow up without a dad with any male figure, and so my whole goal was to have some sort of point to what I do. And so I had no direction, and I'm trying to give somebody some direction.
That's why he likes memory management so much. He likes pointers.
There you go. Yeah, it's a little indirect, but it works. And then my favorite YouTuber would be Olin Rogers. He really kind of earwormed me with this idea of saying things in really unusual ways, and I just think it's so funny.
That's good. I am Polymars,
Thank you.
like the planet, and I do challenges and competitions around making video games. So stuff like me and my friend will compete to make a game in 1 hour, but we both have to use PowerPoint because apparently you can do that. And favorite YouTuber, probably one of like the OGs, someone like Jaden Animations, I think.
Hey, my name is Doug. My channel's called Pirate Software. I do a lot of, love game development, but primarily do a lot of challenges in video games, modded things, and then interact with my deranged Twitch chat community and make strange stories and experiences with them. My favorite YouTube channel is CGP Grey, who does really, really good, he's the GOAT. And then just learning really, really interesting stuff in a cool way is like one of my favorite things, so I love him. Also, my channel is Doug, I just remembered, so yeah.
My name is Thor, and I'm also Pirate Software, which is good. Yeah, we have something in common. Fantastic. But yeah, no, my entire content it's based around getting you to make video games and show you that you can actually make things, because we live in a time where it is easier now than any other time in history for you to actually build stuff. We have so many tools, so many different methods of doing this, and it's more accessible than any other time. And I think my favorite YouTube channel is probably Anton Petrov, because his content is really, really cool. He breaks down a bunch of science stuff in really awesome ways, and I love it.
Hello, my name is Eric, or Pointcrow, and I play games wrong because my parents didn't give me enough attention. So I try to seek it from everyone else. I do a whole bunch of crazy things with programming to make the games different, and then try to make challenges with that. My favorite YouTuber was Doug until I met him. And so now it's Michael Reeves. He does some really creative stuff, and I love that.
I just realized that this panel is sorted from least to most gaming, which is very interesting. Arguably also sorted worst to best programmer, but to each their own.
Whoa, hey,
Hey, you leave Notepad alone over there.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. I do
love
sorting
Notepad.
You're the only person on this panel that's broken more software than they've written, so.
That's true.
Yeah, on that topic though, I want to better understand like what got you to do YouTube. So was it the gaming, was it the code? Like what led you to actually make a channel and start posting videos? Whoever wants to answer, go nuts.
For me, making a channel actually came out of us building a game studio. So my idea was I was working in AAA. I wanted to go make games. So I went and started making an indie game called Heartbound. And we did a Kickstarter. It got 385% funded. Thing exploded, right? And I had seen so many other Kickstarters where they like ran away with the money and people were really upset about it. And I wanted to be really transparent with that process. So I started streaming the development. And I was terrible at it. I was awful. Like people hated watching me. They hated seeing all this stuff, and I was worried that like if you know they hated me, then they would hate all the content. They'd hate the game and all this kind of stuff. And I got better at it over time, and just kept doing that and learning more about being able to like talk publicly and talk about the games and show people the stuff that I was doing, and it just kind of kept going in that direction. I never stopped. That's the biggest thing is like you can start off in a really weird spot where you don't think that you're doing very well, and just keep going at it and like learning from yourself and just get better. And there's nothing stopping you.
Speaking of weird, Doug, how do you feel about this? What got you to start doing code in your content and vice versa?
So similar to Thor, I was in AAA game development. I worked at EA, and then unlike you, I decided I hated programming, hated game development, and wanted nothing to do with it. So I stopped and then started making Hearthstone videos. That got me into esports, and then I from there started doing weird gaming challenge stuff. And then a few years in, I was like, wait, you can make Skyrim mods. I wonder if you can do that if you know how to program, which I do. So then I started doing Skyrim mods, and then it's just slowly built. And now, like, the majority of what I'm doing is coding. It's my favorite thing about streaming right now, and like I just love the process. And it's really weird for anybody who's familiar with my stuff that like now I'm kind of a programming person because that was not the intention. I literally tried to get out of programming 10 years ago, and now
Isn't
it's
your
like,
handle Doug Food?
yes, yes. So it's very strange that it came back, but now I just like absolutely love it. It's so engaging. And so it turns out programming things you actually like makes a huge difference, and it's more fun to make cool programs for your stream than to make the Facebook login code for EA mobile games. So,
Yeah. Hey, who doesn't love a good mobile code here and there, though?
yeah. And I tracked your data, by the way, on EA's mobile games. So I also did
Nice
that.
job.
Thank you for that.
Two favorite game development features. Yeah.
So when I was much younger, back in the day, I had a charity event, and someone said, hey, we're going to do it on Twitch. So I did what anyone would do 6 years ago. I played Fortnite on Twitch and got all the way up to affiliate so I could take in payments and then do a charity with Extra Life. And it was a lot of fun. And so I thought, okay, I'm pretty fast at Vim. You may have heard of Vim. I use Vim, by the way. And thank you. And I said, okay, I'll just program on stream because what are the chances? Someone might like this. And then it turned out people actually liked it. Then COVID hit, and then it just kept on. Like, everyone wanted the program then, so it's like, hey, this is actually something that's going to work out. So I begrudgingly, at the continual persistence of my wife, started a YouTube channel and made stuff about Vim, and then it just slowly morphed into other things.
You seem like you have something, Point Grow.
I
Why
mean,
do you leave
like,
it on this panel? Well, let's hear your perspective on code and how it's involved in your content, because I think I know the answer, but I'm actually curious what you have to say.
Well, it's like the way like I even like started anything was I went to school for chemical engineering, and I ended up working on railguns for the military for a bit there, which was crazy, right? And I did a whole bunch of like capacitor work and all that, but it wasn't like as fun as playing video games and all that. As it were. And so I did something similar to Doug, where I'm like, I want to play games. I want to do it the way I do it, do challenges, have fun with it. But then eventually, my chemistry and my engineering kind of caught up with me because I haven't ever wanted to let that go. I was a huge FIRST robotics nerd. Love FIRST, and it taught me so many awesome things. So I was able to take the knowledge from that and really build in my love for engineering into video gaming and everything. It was the programming kind of came back.
Yeah, we won't say the Nintendo word, don't worry.
Oh yeah. Please don't.
We won't get
I've learned a lot of copyright law too recently.
I can only imagine. You touched on something that I think is really interesting, like the blend of the engineering and the YouTube. And Doug touched on this as well. It's like how it's so much more fun if you actually care about the thing. I want to go a little deeper in the relationship between these. I'm curious if you guys feel like your experience with engineering, software development, all these things has benefited you on YouTube, or vice versa. Has getting better at YouTube helped you with your engineering work as well? Thor, you're nodding. It looks like you have something.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, the ability to be able to talk to your community while you're building something is enormous. So every time I get stuck on something, every time I'm like, I need to walk out a problem, we do this thing called rubber duck programming. You put a duck on your desk, you tell it what the problem is. That's all of chat. So every single time I'm ever stuck or I'm like, I don't know if this is gonna work, I just explain it all out to chat, and then chat just puts a bunch of terrible answers. It's wonderful. And then I don't choose any of those, and then I do something else, and I learn.
So it's
great.
ChatGPT.
Yeah, it's great. Actual ChatGPT in real time. It's amazing.
Yeah, that's the same for me. My first ever video on YouTube was when I started learning how to code. So I did a video where it was like, I remade Bean Counters, the minigame from Club Penguin, and it got like 10 views, but it got like 5 comments of people being like, don't do this, don't use an if else, like use a switch here, or like whatever. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I like slowly learned how to code. And then I went to college for computer science, and I realized like, okay, what's the point of being here?
Mike, closer.
So then I left that and now I'm a YouTuber. Oh wait.
Yeah, there we go.
Said I left college and now I'm a YouTuber. From my YouTube comments teaching me how to code, I guess.
That
Quick
is
question.
actually the most cursed thing I've ever heard.
Yeah.
Quick question for the panel. Let's get our hands up for who has a completed degree in computer science.
What?
Let's go.
50-50 split. Who has a degree in something that isn't computer science? Pretty good split. Love that.
I went to college for entomology and dropped out.
That's pretty hype. That's awesome.
Honestly, you probably learned more about engineering than we did doing computer science. I'm curious, we've all had the problem working on some project where it just became so much deeper than we expected. I just want to hear some of these fun rabbit hole stories because I know all of you have had them. What's the project that scope creeped the furthest, the fastest, and what ended up coming out of it? You just did one recently, Prime, if I recall.
You know, you think ASCII and making a game with ASCII would be easy, but then you're knee-deep parsing out ANSI terminal codes, trying to figure out what colors are what and trying to send them over the wire. And
Writing
it just-
custom compression algorithms
and
for
then it just
ASCII art.
keeps growing, and next thing you know, you're like quad trees and Huffman encoding going, why is this thing not small enough? And then it just keeps on growing and growing and growing. But honestly, I would say the biggest scope creeps that ever happened in my life were always in the real world. The real world, because the real world can't say no to things. And so if someone sounds smart enough, they're like, oh, let's just create a testing framework for all the devices in this. It'll be really easy. And then you're just like 3 years into it. It's just terrible. So I don't know, personal projects are like fun scope creep.
I don't know if you guys feel different, but I actually find that coding for stream has much less scope creep than a lot of other kind of traditional programming projects because you're not really building an app from scratch. Like for me, it's like, I'm like, oh, I want to try making a little ChatGPT interactive thing. So you make a little module and you use that for stream, and then you're like, ooh, now I want to interface that with a speech text thing, and you combine that together, and then you just keep tacking on all these little things. But you know, if you compare the scope of like prepping one stream to making a game over 5 years, or you know, some sort of enterprise software, like it's really, really small and modular, and I think that is partially why I like it so much, because the you know, scope of a giant project that a corporation typically takes on, where it's this like years and giant thing. There's something really satisfying about just small little additions. It's evolving over time. And at this point, you know, there's like 20, 30, 40 different tools that I'm just sort of like hacking together, slamming like a crappy Lego for every stream. And then, yeah, so at least for me, it's like the exact opposite. I've like never gone into something that takes more than like a week.
It's the completion that feels so good. You can actually like check it off,
Oh,
and then
it's
it's
great.
like a thing.
Oh, it's so nice. And then also, there's no unit testing. You don't have to, it doesn't have to work. Like, it's great.
Sometimes there's unit testing, okay?
You're the
not
only
just that,
person
too.
unit testing their content code.
It's also like the fact that throughout all of that, you don't even really have like a plan a lot of the times. Like sometimes it's like you have it's kind of a loose plan, but it's more of an exploration, right? So we're just learning a bunch of weird stuff. So it doesn't even feel like it's scope creep. It's like, oh, look at that piece. Look at that piece. This is cool. I can fit this together. And that leads to a lot of really interesting discoveries, honestly.
There's
I really
a
enjoy it.
thin line between scope creep and nerd sniping yourself. And I find myself in the latter very often. I was writing a SQLite interpreter for a talk last week because I thought it would make the presentation easier to read, and suddenly I'm hours in realizing I made a mistake.
It's also like the bugs that you encounter and all of the errors that you get. It like doing that live as well is the content. Like that's
Yeah.
really fun. For the most part, you know, like you know, sometimes you get into the rabbit hole a little bit and it's a little bit too much, but still, it's like that is part of the fun of doing it.
Dude,
That's
we
like me.
We
You
spent
would-
like
oh, wait.
6 hours trying to fix a font in one of my games. And we just couldn't figure out what was going on. Like one of the letters just wouldn't render. And that was the bug. The bug just, that letter would never show up on screen. 6 hours of that.
Exactly. That was my worry when I started streaming. I'm like, this would be boring to watch me like try and solve a bug for 1 hour. But I realized my viewers love to watch my like descent into madness. So surprisingly, it ends up being like okay content, I feel like.
I still think this makes no sense at all. Like that anybody watches any of our stuff. Like the coding piece. You'd agree. Like, genuinely, seriously, I don't understand it. I think all of you are super weird, and I say this constantly, and I don't get it. It's cool. I love it. But
you
it's
pre-watch
why
it? That's my
is
favorite
anybody
YouTuber now,
watching it?
just to
I
let you
don't
know. I
They
understand
want to
it
see
at
us
all.
suffer. That's what it is.
Like it's amazing, but I genuinely am like, how is this so interesting to people? So
The weird part is that the projects get bigger and bigger, and so it's not like someone comes in 20 hours into something and be like, yes, I would have done the if there as well because
Yeah.
of this one reason. It's like, no, you have no idea what's happening. What are you doing here?
Yeah, I feel like you guys pre-watched and got my next question. I was going to ask, why do you think people like watching you?
I have
But,
no idea. No idea.
I'll ask you that. Why do you think people want to watch us?
Yeah, why do you think people watch us?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is for you. Question for
Why,
you. Theo.
I think I'm the only one who watches all of your videos for most of you guys, so I actually could give an answer. It's good content.
Thanks, man.
I'll be honest though, I don't watch you guys live. I actually spent a long time 2 years ago bullying this dude here because I liked watching his VODs and I hated watching his YouTube videos because they were these like overproduced messes that felt
true.
like they were trying to hit every audience, but I don't want to learn how to code. I like to think I know how to code. I watched your streams because it felt more like that conversation, like the thing I missed when I had lunch with my coworkers back in the day. And that's what I think a lot of us are getting, especially after COVID. It's like no surprise that when COVID hit, that's when these things started blowing up because we lost our ability to have these conversations. And I'm curious how you guys feel about that. Do you feel like your stuff leans more in the conversational direction, or are you Doug that has this crazy vision for some insane idea ahead of time and then spends half his life trying to make them work?
You know, I really think that's the case. Is a lot of the times my streams are just me talking for 12 hours, which is great because now I've blown my voice out, which is fantastic, right? But no, it's really that. It's just talking to the community for 12 hours and hanging out and answering questions and learning about stuff. And yeah, no, I can agree with that. It makes a lot of sense. It really does.
I think there's one other thing, which is that just seeing someone build something that someone doesn't believe is possible, it kind of like unlocks this thing. Like, well, wait a second, like he's objectively not that smart. I could do this also. Like this
Yeah,
is
I've been
okay.
thinking
I
that.
have
Yeah, I'm glad
permission
you
to
put
do
that.
this.
Yeah.
Inspirational,
Yeah. Like
That's
your
how-
code is awful, so it works out. Like you
Hey,
really
but
inspire
it still
everybody.
works,
It
though,
still
right?
works,
And
though.
I think that's actually, hey, that's why I'm here on the panel, right? It's like you don't have to make it like look pretty, as long as it does function in some way.
Okay.
I'm not dealing with like a major code base where other people have to look at my comments, you know?
Here's my theory. There's 3 tiers of people who watch programming streams. One is people who don't know programming, so it feels like magic when something starts happening. They're like, whoa, there's this magician streaming. And then the upper tier is people who are really good at programming, and then it's infuriating to watch me code. And so they're sitting there just like angrily looking at it, being like, use Git, stop using Dropbox. And then there presumably is like a large middle tier of people who follow it, but like aren't like way smarter. They're like, oh, this is cool. This is like hanging out with a friend, watching them code. So I don't know what tier everybody's in, but that's my theory.
No, dude, I can totally agree with that. Why do you think I code in Notepad++? I mean,
Yeah.
come on.
You
That's the
gotta,
reason.
you gotta infuriate.
Why do you think
Exactly.
I code and it's just regular plain Notepad? Like, come on, like this is.
You
I
always
just
assume
we're
you're
going down
using
the line here, man.
I assumed you're using Notepad because that has the fewest known exploits, Thor.
What's up?
I just like using Notepad because that has the fewest known exploits.
I mean, known.
Fair point.
I
There's
can't wait
actually-
for the 0 day on Notepad++.
There was something that Polymers was touching on earlier. I actually really like this idea of the like failure loop and the reward that you feel. Something that I've enjoyed a lot about doing content code versus like millions of dollars running through infrastructure I don't understand code is that reward and failure loop is both less painful failures and sometimes even more rewarding rewards. And I'm curious how you guys feel about that. Do you feel more like rewarded and proud of the work you do as a creator versus as an engineer? And where do you stand on that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Because my last job was hacking power plants for the federal government. I worked for the DOE, and I quit that to go and stream, right? So I find now I have way more opportunity to fail and learn things than any other time in my entire career. Because I can just write bad code on stream, learn something, and get better at this, which is awesome, honestly. After a 20-year-long career, like that's a great place to be.
Yeah.
Well, I'll be glad to go. So, for those that don't know, I have a video on Netflix or on YouTube called "From Meth to Netflix."
Netflix, by the way.
I used to use some casual drugs at one point, and my biggest failures are from those times. And I think a lot of people like the idea of someone that can actually be a failure and come out of it, because I think we can all see aspects of our life that we wish we would have done different, and that there is some sort of post thing. So for me, the coding failures and all that, that's just like. Everyone has that. It's just being able to see something change in someone's life is really, really good. And there's like, I'm sure you guys all get like the enormous amount of messages being like, you actually gave me this. My failures in life became successes, and that was awesome.
Yeah, there's something like extremely beautiful about that too. Because like you can fail and fail and fail. You'll learn after every single failure. But the one thing that I think I've learned over the past like 5 years of like my content creation is just doing it. Just like you're going to fail. It's not going to be good, right? But you did it though. And then the next time you do it afterwards, next time you attempt will be even better. And the time after that, right? Like every time I release a video, I'm like, this video is great. But I know that the video I'm going to release like 5 months from now is going to be even better than that. And I'll look back and I'll be like, I could have done this differently. But it's like, just the attempt is what's really important there. So anytime anyone asks like, oh, hey, how do I start this? I'm like, just try, go for it, right? You're going to fail, but that's awesome.
And I think some people will actually look at that and they're like, oh, well, you can say that because you're up on stage and you do cool stuff.
yeah.
But like, the only thing you have to judge yourself on is what were you doing 3 months ago? If you can look at your own stuff that you made 3 months ago and go, oh, that was awful, then you're doing it right. That's the whole point of that. So get out there, get dirty, fail at stuff, and look at your own stuff and judge yourself by your own actions, not by others.
I feel like that's what makes streaming so special too, compared to just like making like overproduced videos. Because that's kind of what I used to do. I was like a YouTuber for like 3 years until I started doing live stuff. And I feel like even on like a micro level, like game development is kind of like a story, which is like what I do. But really anything you do is like a story. And if it's super polished, you don't have those super low points, then the really high points don't feel as rewarding. So I feel like just naturally by being like, I guess, authentic, like showing your low points, it just makes a much better, like, I guess, story for the audience and attaches people to you, I feel like.
Yeah, and interesting, even in all sorts of, like Michael Reeves, who I assume everybody here knows, if you think about his videos, it's 95% things not working, and like that's the fun of it. Like things only work at the very end, and the only reason that's even satisfying is because all the problems leading up to it. So I think it makes for more entertainment on top of being, inspirational and all that. So yeah.
We're getting close to the end, but I want to ask one last question, go down the line as we wrap up. What's one piece of advice you would go back and give yourself getting started for everybody here who might be looking to go down the same journey we all did? Start with Brian if you got one, or we can go the other way if you have one on the other side. Come on. Doug,
you may start with me?
whoever's ready to go, just somebody go first.
Oh, okay, I got it. Right. I mean, it's kind of exactly what I said before, right? Just try it. But I'd say be less afraid, right? Like just try more wacky things. Do what I like more. I think for a while there, because I started with like plain Zelda videos, challenges in those games, right? And if I never really had the thought of like, oh, what if I just like did this one crazy thing because I thought it was really fun and I was really passionate about it, then I wouldn't be where I am today. And so if I had to give the advice, it's like be less afraid. Do kind of crazy stuff. Do what you like, because the people that watch you can tell when you're really passionate about it. And so if you are, then it'll show through the screen and it'll do very well.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah, I think it's really important to understand that when you release something, say you make a video or you make a game, you put it out there and it doesn't do very well, you have to not beat yourself up in a way where you stop making things. That becomes a long history. It becomes the lore for you, right? Like, I had thousands and thousands of videos and like all this kind of stuff, shorts and all that kind of stuff before people found my things, right? And then it all exploded at once, and they had all this backlog of things to go and watch. They had got to see all the games and everything we've been doing for years. And none of that would have been there if I got discouraged in the beginning because the first thing I put up got 2 views, right? So like, don't worry about that. Just worry about making something that you think is cool and just keep adding to it. It becomes this massive mountain of stuff that you've done.
You guys said exactly what I would said, so I have nothing. I guess the thing I would add is use ChatGPT. But like actually, it's like the greatest learning tool I've ever seen. And to somebody who's, if you happen to be starting out with programming and you're just interested in it, I think it is the best way to just, because then you can tailor it to your own experience really well, rather than going to a lecture where maybe you follow the way the teacher is saying what's going on. Now it's like, tell me how to do this in my terms with my type of thinking, and that is unbelievably helpful for learning.
Trying to put us out of business there, huh?
Yeah. Well, then we're funny because we use it badly. Then it's entertaining.
Fair.
We just talked about how failure's entertaining, so that's our niche.
Yeah, I feel like it's the same thing. You should optimize for fun, and then everything else really will fall into place. Like, I posted videos for a year, and like, getting like no views, but if it's something you enjoy, like I had no expectation tied to it, so it made it like a really fun process. So make that process fun, and like eventually something will happen. And Doug also has a good video, Doug's Guide for Content or something like that. That was a good video too. I think that helped me a bit. So you should watch that on YouTube.
Thanks.
Down to wrap us up, Prime?
Yeah, so I'll do 2 quick things. One,
Really quick.
Yeah, never make content for someone else. Like that is like the first trap someone falls into is like, I think people like this. I'm doing this because people like it. You'll just get burnt out, hands down, every single time. Second one is G.K. Chesterton talks about this idea of the race of big men think really big. The race of little men think about process and how to be the most efficient. Dream big, accomplish big. You may fail, but you accomplish much more than something small.
Absolutely love it. Thanks for this. Give a round of applause for the whole panel we have here. Awesome crew. If y'all want to come hang with us and chat, we're going to Crunch Labs, right?